some ways Men in Black is no different than anything else, which is it begins with a character and it continues on with the story. We did feel that after the first three, that particular story had been told, and really the key to getting to this one was the character that Tessa plays, Molly, who becomes Agent M. Not as only is she a woman, which is in some ways notable for a film called Men in Black, but she, unlike Will's character or any other Men in Black agent, actually had an encounter with an alien as a very young girl and was not neuralized, and spent the next 20 years trying to find the Men in Black, believing there was something out there. And it's strange that that changed the entire kind of energy of the movie in a really interesting way.
Yeah, we didn't feel confident about making, trying to reinvent the franchise until we came up with that specific. And again, it wasn't even so much about, oh, let's make it a woman this time. It was just this idea of this young girl. We had this scene idea and how it would open and how it makes you enter the agency in a very different way and invest in her. And it's the one thing, because as most people know, the development of stories and scripts takes a while, and often there are many different versions, different stories, but that character and the idea of the character she would meet, who was kind of the opposite, she had fought her whole life to find out the truth, because her parents had been neuralized, so they thought none of this happened. She was this lone, what looked like conspiracy theorist, but a lone woman trying to find this organization because she knew what she saw was real. And yeah, it did. And the idea that Chris, we very quickly then come up with the idea that we would pair her with the male lead should be someone to whom it came very easily. It was a complete accident that he became a Men in Black. So right there you have some tension already.
I think the other thing that motored the development of this Men in Black was something that was built into Men in Black from the very beginning, and we didn't really know it, which is that this is a global organization. We told the story of the New York branch in the first three, but we never assumed that was the only branch on the planet. And once we made the decision, which was very much embraced by the studio, given what has happened in the movie business, it's very much a global market now, it also presented a whole pathway to go down that without which we'd still be writing it. There's a particular rapport that Chris and Tessa have, and Chris is gifted comedically in a way you wouldn't expect, as is Tessa. But oddly enough, even the size discrepancy. I mean, it's a little bit, if you're walking in the park and you see, the big Great Dane who seems to be, own the sidewalk, and then the small terrier comes and the Great Dane is totally cowed by it. Well, in a funny way, I actually think their discrepancy in size works for us.
Yeah.
There's just look, we can certainly, along with obviously, Matt and Art are fantastic screenwriters, you have to build attention into the relationship, okay? It has to be on the page, but that is no guarantee. It only works if there are actors who can take that intention and actually run with it. And I actually think in the case of Chris and Tessa, which is often the case with the great actors you have a chance to work with, it starts here and the actors take it to a place that you can never imagine.
It was, even on the page, when we read the very first draft, our writers kind of aced Pawnee. We even thought, he could steal the show here. He's pretty great. But then Kumail, he was our first choice we were lucky enough to get, because we love his work and have followed him as a comic actor even before he was in movies for years since he started. But he brought so much to it. Pawnee had a voice of his own, and a lot of what you'll discover in him was not written.
Yeah, there was once an executive who worked with us back when we ran the studio, who had this ability to sort of be aggressive and retreat at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what Pawnee does.
Be certain and uncertain.
Absolutely. The bravado can be undone like that.
Yeah.
He's wonderful, and as Laurie said, once again, an example where the raw material, the DNA existed very much on the page, and then you put it in the hands of a truly gifted performer, and by the way, Kumail is much more than a gifted performer. He is a tremendous writer in his own rights.
No.
It goes to a place you never imagined.
I think our cast is exemplary, and obviously Emma Thompson is incredible, and Liam, and the whole group. But I think that hopefully, I think there is a freshness, even though this is the fourth in a franchise. I do think it has, visually is different in that it takes you to a lot of different worlds, and as you know, I'm in awe at what Marvel does and the superhero universe, but it is very much, it's a completely CG, it's a completely computer-generated universe. Very cool, takes you amazing images. I do think that the key to Men in Black has always been the juxtaposition of the, you know, extraordinary against the ordinary. And the fact in this one that we're not just in New York, but we travel from London to Marrakesh to Italy, that it has a, yeah, there is a, you know, if it's a summer movie, and I think along with being hopefully a very fun, enjoyable movie, it takes you somewhere. You've been on a bit of a journey when you come home.
We do live in a time where the marketplace is overwhelmed by extraordinary, and I love every one of them, big CG franchises. They all sort of exist somewhere else. And there is something about Men in Black which goes, I think, or I should say I hope, to one of the main reasons why we love movies, which is to try to imagine what it would be like to be that. I remember as a kid, Laurie knows, the only books I read were James Bond books and the only movies I saw. But after the movie, I remember imagining what it would be like to have my Walter PPK and what it would be like to be the coolest guy in the room. In a funny way, Men in Black gives the audience an opportunity to access this miraculous world through the make-believe an actual human being could imagine. And I think that is part of what hopefully explains why it still seems to be relevant now, 21 years later.